Hi, this is Joe Rosensteel. I recently wrote a post for Six Colors about cleanup and photo retouching in general and why I feel like they're a good thing. Now that cleanup's been released, I'd like to discuss it in more technical level and also compare it against some other photo retouching tools for the iPhone that have existed and see where we get from there. So for my first example here, I've got the Pantages Theater at sunset with the marquee. I was going to the show. It looked nice. I was going to post it on social media. It's got its 9 by 16 crop. I knew conceptually where everything was going to be layout wise, but I just couldn't frame up the shot to get rid of this sandwich board without compromising the view of the sunset or the marquee. So in post, I know that I can use cleanup to remove it. And poof, it's gone. It does a great job. There's no seams, there's no weird stuff. It's just street texture. That's fine. No one will care, no one will miss it. Now, all of the other stuff I don't want to remove because it's all there to show life and liveliness inside of Hollywood. I have no motivation to remove these things, but also I don't want to remove them because they're stacked in Z with many other complicated things behind them. And if you just start removing this stuff, it fills it in with stuff that doesn't make any sense, like these sort of smeary, blobby nonsense things that aren't people or anything. They're just like crap. So I don't want to use it for that purpose. I just want to use it to remove that sandwich board. And I think it does a good job at that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done on that. Now we're back to normal. I'm going to go ahead and use retouch instead to do the same thing. Now, retouch has, I don't even remember why I downloaded it, but it was recommended to me back when there used to be no retouching tools. It's come a long way. Does have a 12 megapixel limit on things, but it's got nice stuff like I can go back in and erase. I can adjust if it doesn't do a good job the first time, all this other stuff. So, like, I don't like what it did. I can revert that, trim off that little edge, go again, revert that. And it does a similar job to what Cleanup did. It did have to do some more fiddling around with the selection, but that's that. And it does just as bad a job if I were to try to remove people, which again, don't want to do. So go. Blech. Total smeary, nasty mess. So again, discard changes. It can remove sandwich boards just fine. Now, for Lightroom, we can go ahead and see an app that can do a more complicated kind of replacement, but it doesn't really buy you anything in this example. So I've got their AI enhanced thing, and I go ahead and I paint that sandwich board. And you have to do this in one stroke, by the way, because it's one of those apps. So ta-da! Does a perfectly acceptable replacement job. Now, if you're curious, the refine options that are available to you let you cycle through different sort of like fill in patches. And I happen to like this third one more than I like the first one, but very little difference between them. Um, and again, I could, if I wanted to, try to remove people, but I really don't want to do it. And it'll do just as bad of a job if I try to select a person. It replaced the person with another person. What? Huh? What? Okay, well, I mean, I guess that removes him more than the other one did, but it doesn't put in the things that make any sense. Anyway, whatever. So, like I was saying, I don't think that you can always use removals when you start stacking up stuff, and I don't want to remove anything to that level there for any reason. Back to this. Inside the Pantages in photos, we've got this shot that I took where I was just framed too close. I wanted to see the, Art Deco architecture stuff that's in the lobby before people started filtering in. And I got one shot, but then by the time I took my wider shot, somebody had wandered in to the frame, and I felt like it just unbalanced what I wanted. Like, I didn't want to have an empty Hollywood Boulevard, but empty lobby I'm fine with. For this one, it's selected her and I can remove her, but it replaces her with stuff that doesn't make any sense. And this replacement, it does every single time where it puts that frame over the bar and over the stanchion, part of the stanchion anyway. So this is terrible. And I don't know why it's so bad at understanding the layering that's going on there, but I will compare it again to retouch, retouch. And so I zoom in here. I select the woman that I want to remove, hit go, she's gone. It makes kind of a smeary mess there, but the layering is overall kept the way it should be. So you might be fine with that from a distance, but I'm not a super huge fan. So I'm gonna hit cancel, discard changes, um, and we will go back out to Lightroom. And in Lightroom, for the removal, select the person, just like before. Do a little paint. Removing area using AI. So there we go. Now let's try our variations and see if we've got one that has a better bar. No, not really. Kind of chopped up all of them. Let's try different paint. See if we can get a better result. We're fine. It's kind of chewy. Let's see if we can paint on top of our paint, maybe. And just move our paint region around. No. Okay, so that's like from far enough away. No one would like throw a fit. But it's not perfect. And it's certainly better if I were to take that region from my photo that didn't have a person in it and put it into this using, Pixelmator in like a Photoshop kind of a way. But just in case you're curious, we will try reset remove, and we will use detect objects this time. And we will do the old circle and see what it decides it's going to detect in this dense, very small region. And it just did bad, 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 bad. So bad what it did. No, none of those are good. They removed the stanchion and just made like a saggy, weird thing, and the bar is all messed up. So yeah, again, detect objects strikes out. Let's go ahead and try Photometer, since I know people are probably interested in what this can do. Apple bought Pixelmator, Photomator, and so they have those at their disposal, and maybe they did it because of the amazing healing brush that it has. But I'll show you. It did not do a great job here. That is for sure. And Pixelmator yields basically the same result if you were to try it. And now you can keep painting to try to remove things, but it's not going to make it make any more sense. It just kind of smears. It schmears. So, yeah, I don't consider this to be good. This is better than cleanup in that it didn't put the gold and silver bars over the top of the bar, but it is worse than all of the others in that it messed up the stanchions and the detail level. So, not ideal. Cancel, discard changes. And like you can see the original, just to refresh your memory, that's the level of detail we would like to get in there. And that's something that I could do by copying that region in Pixelmator and putting it there, um, which none of these tools can refer to the other photos that I have in my library to do. They all have to source from the photo that you're currently looking at. And that is a major downside for every one of them. And so we will go back to photos. And I'm going to show another example of another part of the lobby. There are these two costumes of Doc and Marty, and I know that this needs to be cropped 9:16 for social media. So I can go ahead in and crop it and then see how much I have to mess around with after that. So 9:16, and then it's a little off center. So that's boop, over. Nope, slid a little. I love it when repositioning a photo has momentum. All right, so it's done. Now I can go to cleanup, and I see that there are only these three little parts of the tables that are left that I need to remove. Teeny tiny little parts of the tables. So let me go in here on the chrome first, and I paint that in. But you'll see it doesn't do a good job with anything on the edge of the photo. And since I had cropped it, the edge of the photo is now that part of the chrome base. And I can keep running the cleanup tool over and over and over again, and it'll just keep chewing on the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't make any difference, doesn't make any sense. Reset. Now, if I go back and I take off the crop and do a replacement, you're going to see that it does a significantly better job. It doesn't keep part of the chrome inside of the shot. And I don't care about what it did in the middle of that base because it won't be in the frame once I do my 9:16 crop. So let me remove this part of the table here. Fine. Go back over here. Remove this part of the table. Eh, the rest of that doesn't matter because it'll be out of the frame. So now I can go ahead and do a crop. And for me, this is totally backwards from how I would like to work on something because I want to crop in and see what's left over, not clean up a bunch of stuff that's not in the frame and then crop in. But it works better this way. So if you're finding that you're frustrated because you've cropped in and it won't do a replacement, take the crop off and then go back and do it over. So there we go, a nice cleanup job. So now let's look at it in Lightroom. And in Lightroom, it has the same crop baked in from the start. It has no additional pixel data because I exported it with the crop from photos. That means it can't see any additional pixels or worry about anything along the edge. And for some reason, it does a better job at this than cleanup did. And even though it has some whoopsie doodles, they're a little easier to fix than the cleanup ones. and I can run through those variations, which is very helpful instead of just like one shot and then you're done. So, ta-da, same thing. Didn't have to change the crop, didn't have to worry about order of operations. It just did it. So, ta-da. Now, let's go ahead and try Photomator. And Photomator has the crop, but it also has that weird thing where it's like built into your albums, but it can't see any of the crop data. So I can't like recrop this to be larger than what Photos had done. I can only crop it more. So it doesn't have any additional pixel data. So how does the brush do in Pixelmator? Boop, perfect. Up here, fine. Over here, eh, let's try that again. Eh, I mean, that's fine. So yeah, you can get a better result here than with cleanup without having to change your crop. Again, I don't get it. I don't know why the cleanup brush tool just has like such a difficult time with edge pixels. Cancel. Discard changes. Okay, so my last example is going to be from my original 6 colors post, and that was removing this water bottle. And I did it with touch retouch, um, the photos extension that time originally. Again, not for the Louvre. This is a social media post, whatever. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be awful either. And I'll show you what awful is in a second as I use cleanup to try to do this. And it correctly selected the bottle, but then it decimated and stretched and smeared his arm, his knuckles, the beer glass. Like none of this needed to be changed. I was just removing the water bottle. So I don't get it at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. Hit reset. Now, if you're wondering, does it make a difference if you paint it out laboriously by doing it really fine with the edges and everything? The answer is no, because it's still going to result in the same selection, and the selection's fine. It's just what it does to every other pixel next to the selection is terrible. It needs to detect the objects that it needs to preserve, and that includes his knuckles, that includes his forearm, that includes the beer, instead of changing all of those. It's just terrible. So let me switch to the retouch extension and pop on in here, object removal. I'm going to go ahead and paint it. And I'm going to paint it for all of the bluishy pixels so that it doesn't suck those in. But you'll see that even though I'm going over part of his arm and the knuckles and everything, let me just make sure I don't get any of that beer glass. Even though I'm painting over part of his arms and his knuckles and everything, it's going to try to keep those. So go, and then it's not bad. It's not great, but you zoom out and no one would notice there was a water bottle there or have any questions about it. It's soft on detail and is not perfect. But again, it's a social media post, whatever. Um, and I will go ahead and hit cancel for that, discard changes, and I will pop on over to Photomator, since you're probably curious about what that healing brush does. And this one is extremely disappointing, um, along the same lines as the cleanup result is. Instead of the pointy cleanup results you're going to see in a second, this is the smeary result where it just copies over and offsets and smears. And this is terrible. I would not use that in any way, shape, or form, along with the cleanup one that I wouldn't use in any way, shape, or form. And so we will go back over here, pop on over to the water bottle photo, and I'll go ahead and use removal. And you're going to see with this one, um, again, we're painting, and I'm not super fearful about selecting too much of the edge with this tool, just like when I was using the retouch extension. But I want to make sure I get a little blue pixel there. There we go. And then the top of the water bottle, we're all good. And it's going to do that magical thing where it replaces that stuff. Now, it didn't do a great job, so let me go through the refine options and see if I need to adjust anything. That one's okay, but it made the arm out of focus. I guess this one's fine. I wonder if I can move the region around. No, it kept some of the blue pixels that time. Nope, worse. Let me just reset that back to what I had before. There we go. And then try, let me go to this one, and then I'm going to use the brush again for that little weird dark spot. But it collapses knuckle, revert, zoom way in. There we go. All right, so that's the most natural looking result out of these, and it has the most detail. But is it worth having a Creative Cloud subscription and all of that just to do this? I don't think so. But your mileage may vary. So if you have the tool at your disposal, or this is super important and you do it all the time, then yeah, sure, Lightroom. Now, one last example you're probably curious about is if we go to that infamous bag strap one where he had the bag strap on, liked the photo, didn't like the bag strap. And he posed in a different spot and thought it would be good, and I didn't like it, and he didn't like it. But he didn't have the bag strap on in this one. And so I had copied this shoulder and put it on this other photo and did it in Pixelmator in a very Photoshoppy, layery kind of a way. And you might be wondering, well, can cleanup do this? And the answer is no. Again, it can't refer to other photos. And so it will only reconstruct things from the photo that it has at its disposal. It also doesn't do well with things that are long edges. And so I will laser pen the crap out of this and let it do its thing, and it smears because it doesn't know how to reconstruct the collar. It does correctly get his seam on his shirt, but you'll see that one of the unique things about trying to remove this strap is that it puts a dark edge over the water and it puts a light edge over his shirt. And it also doesn't copy the shirt texture correctly. And I don't know why that is, since it does it correctly in all those other examples we were looking at earlier. But again, along the edge of the photo frame, what is that? Doesn't make any sense. Reset. All right. And if you're curious, like, oh, well, maybe it's because you didn't like circle select the removal area. Boop, same thing. Just takes less time to select, but it performs exactly as badly. And if I go to extensions, retouch isn't going to fare much better because, again, it can't refer to the other photos. There's nothing it can do about that. So I can do an object removal and I can paint that area. Erase because there's too much being removed over here. And then hit go, and it just smears too. And instead of having a edge, it has a very soft, smeary thing, but it isn't right either. And it doesn't get the detail right for the top part of his shirt. So I don't like this, and I wouldn't use this, and I didn't use this. So cancel, discard changes. So now we will go to Photomator, and I'll show you Photomator and why this healing brush and the same healing brush that's inside Pixelmator, it doesn't do any better either. Again, because it can't refer to any other detail inside of any other image, and it's just going to smear, and it's just going to make a mess, and that doesn't make any sense, and no one wants that. No one wants their neck to look like that. Cancel, discard changes. So in Pixelmator, where I did this originally, you can see what I've done is that I brought in his photo and I copied the shoulder from the other photo and put it over that one. None of the automated photo retouching tools can do this. And so I hope that Apple doesn't kill Pixelmator because I need this tool if I'm ever going to do something like this again. And again, this is how I would do that bar removal for the Pantages. Um, it's much better result. If you have data, use the data. Don't ignore that. Don't just try to fabricate something based only on the pixels that are inside of your crop region. I don't think that that is a good strategy for anyone. So I hope you found this video informative and that it helps provide some guidance for what kind of removals you might expect to do using these kinds of tools. And I certainly didn't show everything, but this is a short video. So hopefully you can extrapolate that out to the kinds of removals you want to do. Always frame up a shot so that you don't have to remove something. But if you do, try to get it in a way where you know you can get rid of the object, that there's nothing complicated behind it, that it's not 5 levels of people stacked on a sidewalk that you're expecting to remove, because none of these tools can do that right now. And that no matter how easy it is to select something, it can be hard to control that selection. So live and learn and remove, live, laugh, remove. Thanks.